Hello and welcome to the Safaricom Newsroom podcast, where we have conversations with leaders in business, innovation, and technology across Africa and beyond. I'm your host, Julian Kamau. On today's episode, we are honored to be joined by a visionary leader whose career spans over 2 decades in global strategy and transformative business development. Michael Mutiga is the Chief Strategy and Business Development Officer at Safaricom PLC. Michael brings a wealth of experience, having worked in top-tier roles in banks such as Citibank, Absa Capital, where he advised some of the world's largest organizations on growth, digital transformation, and emerging markets. At Safaricom, he's at the forefront of driving long-term strategy, forging key partnerships, as well as driving innovation that impacts millions of lives. Today, we get to unpack his journey from law, finance, and into strategic leadership. We also get to know him as a person. How did he get to where he is currently? And what does his job really entail? So welcome on set, Michael Mutiga.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. It's been a long time coming.
It has been.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about what you do at Safaricom in your own words.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes.
So my role formally is Chief Business Development and Strategy Officer.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is taking that perspective of how do we shape the company we want to be. So the way I look at it is Safaricom, like now we're at Safaricom at 25, we've built an amazing GSM business. We connect millions of people. We've built an amazing mobile money platform. We're now in the process of what's the next thing that we build, right? Whether it's going to be building an amazing devices ecosystem, whether it's building an amazing ICT or IoT proposition or market, how we transition ourselves to the new economy in terms of apps and applications and fintech, beyond, of course, what we've done as M-Pesa. So there's a lot in terms of the transition and the next things that we can be, and will drive our growth in the medium term.
Okay. So is this something you always wanted to do, or you knew you're going to do at some point, or what's the course you did taking you back?
Wow. I wouldn't say that I knew I always wanted to do this job.
Okay.
What I always knew I wanted to be is supporting and growing opportunities. So if you look at my career, I spent most of my career on how do you finance growth? How do you structure growth? How do you finance acquisitions into various markets? How do you support companies, or even in a few cases countries, in terms of fueling their future growth and their aspirations? And this role, especially around the strategy side of things, gets me into that space where I am trying to shape what that future looks like, playing my role in helping define what 5 years, 10 years looks like, and what needs to be done now to get to those 5 years, and then what you can do or explore those opportunities that you may not be seeing now, but will be the grassroots for the future growth. So it's an interesting role of exploration, of interrogating opportunities, of stretching yourself, stretching a wider community in form of the organization, to be beyond where we are today.
And I noticed that you did law as your first course. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I always wanted to do law. The background to that is 2 things. When I was about maybe 14, 15, I was a big reader, and read a book about a company called KKR, that's Kravis, Kohlberg, and Roberts. And these were the buyout kings in the 1980s. And here I was at 14. An elder mentor had given me a book to read, thick book, this big.
Yeah.
And one of the characters, George Roberts, stood out for me in terms of he's a lawyer, very much involved in banking and finance, what the company did in terms of creating an entirely new ecosystem of the leveraged buyout, of buying out companies, of how they got into companies, restructure, fix, reposition for future growth. It appealed to me when I was that young. So, and the second thing that happened is almost accidental, right? We came from that era where you had to pick 4 courses when you're in university, what you wanted to do. And I remember I got into trouble that time because I only picked 2, which was my first choice was law, and my second choice was architecture. So I remember my parents being called in, how I'm being stubborn, that I'm not picking up the safe choices.
Yeah.
And I remember telling them, if I don't get one of those 2, I'm not going to university. So fortunately, I did get in. And this is history. So going to law, and finished my pupillage, and then managed to get a path into the world of finance, which I was really interested in at that point in time.
So what made you transition to finance? Because did you get to practice law for a long time? Or?
I actually never really, I finished my pupillage, so I qualified.
Yes.
But I never practiced. So I finished my pupillage with Hamilton Harrison Matthews, and at the time it's now called Denton Harrison Matthews. And then I transitioned to my master's, and then for my master's went straight into what was then Barclays, that became Absa Capital. So they put me as part of the global. So they picked me from college in the US, took me to London. Then from London sent me to Kenya for a few months, then sent me to South Africa. And that's how I wound up being with Barclays for about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, Citi saw me on one of the deals, and they hired me. They decided to poach me. That's how I wound up going to Citi, and I spent the rest of my banking career at Citi.
Okay. Now coming back to Safaricom, we are turning 25. When you look back, what are some of the best strategic decisions that you think have propelled the company to where it is as one of the largest telcos in Africa?
That's a very good question. I think there are 3 decisions that stand out for me as to what has shaped Safaricom to what it is today. Maybe 4. I think the first one, and it was taken very early, was the bet on per second billing. And if you recall at the time, the market share was a neck and neck. In fact, at some point in time, Cancel was a little bit higher in market share. But the decision to go to per second billing was a really smart one. Our culture is very much driven by value, by being ensured that you're maximizing what you have. So the per second billing was a really insightful decision. That really helped us now, the company, scale up its market share.
Maybe before you continue, for someone who might not understand what per second billing is, in simple terms, what does that mean?
In simple terms, per second billing, at the time, there was the notion that you bill for the minute of talk time, right? So your tariff was based on a rate for every minute.
Every minute, yeah.
And the decision was made, change it to the rate for every second, right?
Okay.
And that really helped have more inclusion, drop the cost down for the connectivity, and appeal to Kenya's sense of value, of how do we maximize every moment, every cent, every interaction that we have. that was a really insightful decision at that point in time. I think the second one was the decision to invest in building the M-Pesa platform. You know, they say that every success has many fathers, and I think that's one of them, but in the real sense. Because I think it was a hard decision at that point in time. If you think of what it was the board and the management basically setting aside a fairly large chunk of revenue, right, into that development and investment into M-Pesa. And the platform at that point in time, nobody knew it was going to work. This is a world pioneering platform. It was, of course, premised on analysis and all those aspects, but it had not been tried before, right? And the fact that it was a decision taken to invest and build it up, I think it was pivotal for the company.
Yeah.
And you can see the results now, of course, after 18 years.
Very brave decision.
But it was a difficult decision. I saw it from the other side because I was working at the time when I was with Barclays with one of the other mobile phone companies, and they had huge amounts of debate around what to do. It was called CellPay, and it was a subsidiary of one of the other software companies. So it was there about the same time, maybe later than M-Pesa, but they just couldn't seize the moment, right? They didn't see the long-term picture. They didn't stick to the growth and the plan. And as I said, the rest is history. M-Pesa is where it is, but it's a very brave decision to take at that time with the level of uncertainty as to what it actually could be.
Yeah. The third one?
The third one, I think, is Ethiopia. Again, it's a brave decision, which is go beyond the comfort of your home market, where you've got a very strong market position, and get into a new market where you're a challenger. So, why is it brave? One, it's a new market. All the indicators show that it should be a really good opportunity. It will be a really good opportunity for us. If you look at the size of the population, if you look at the level of connectivity that has been there, etc. But it's not an easy decision to make. It's not an easy execution to get done. But the reality is all these things, in terms of making big shifts, if you look at the example I've just given, it took a lot of courage to go into almost the unknown.
Yeah.
Right? And that courage, those bets, paid off massively for the company.
I'm just wondering, how long did you sit with that idea of going into Ethiopia?
Well, it's not my idea.
Not yourself. How long did the business? How long were we sitting on it? Would you know?
I think there's always a sense of we need to expand. I mean, if you think about where we are in Kenya, as I said, we've got a very strong position in the market, right? At some point, every Kenyan will have a phone. At some point, every Kenyan will be on M-Pesa. Well, I'm hoping we'll get to at that point. And as you then mature in that sort of way, in terms of your penetration has reached to near saturation, then where's your growth going to come from? And that's why the growth in terms of geographic expansion is going to be very important, and the growth in terms of transitioning to TechCo is very important, because you're trying to find the new revenue streams that will continue your growth curve.
Okay. You've actually touched on to my next question, which is about another brave decision that was made in 2020 to transition the business from a telco to a techco.
Right.
Kindly walk us through that decision.
I think I've touched on that.
Yeah.
It's also a very interesting and brave decision. Think about it this way. As I've just mentioned, you're getting to a point where at some point nearly every Kenyan will be on a phone, and every Kenyan will be hopefully on a Safaricom phone. Every Kenyan will be transacting on our M-Pesa platform. So where's your growth going to come from? Because you're not going to grow it by adding new subscribers. There'll still be an element of growth from subscriber base, but it's going to be a challenge to do that continued, double digits growth in numbers of subscribers every year. Tied to that is, as industries mature, right, you'll eventually find margins start to contract, right? So you'll be unless you shift your business, you'll find yourself, fully contracting in your growth trajectory. It's terrible for shareholders, terrible for staff, and that's not the way you look at business. So you have to find ways for new growth and a new momentum.
Yeah.
Going back to something I said earlier, which is we've built an amazing connectivity layer. What we've done in GSM, covering how much we've done for the country. We've built an amazing payments or mobile money platform. We're in the process of building an amazing device ecosystem. From everything we assemble to what we sell to the partners we engage with, the platforms we sell them on, etc. Right? So the next growth is going to be that you have to now what sits on these three pillars. Think of it like a stool, right? You've got the network stool or the coverage stool. You've got the mobile and money stool. Now you've got the device leg of the stool, right? Then what sits on top of it? It's going to be all we do from now and technology perspective, which is going to be, our content play. It's going to be plays like agri-tech. It's going to be plays like health and what we're doing with the government. It's going to be plays like cyber security. It's going to be ICT and IoT solutions. It's going to be SaaS and similar type of propositions. It's going to be, and that's just on us as a company. If you look at our consumer, right, it's going to be, I'm already connected. I can already make my payments. I already have the right device. All right. So where's our engagement going to come from? Is what are we doing on that device, all right?
Yeah.
To support their lifestyle, to help them in their businesses, to help them with their education, to help them with their entertainment, etc. So the transition to TechCo is very much a sense of taking a brave bet that we've got the three bases covered. How do we then look at the utilization of the device on our network, which can be paid for?
Excellent. I think that sounds very detailed and shows the roadmap to what it is that we're moving towards, which is really good. I know you're also at the forefront of forging key partnerships. And partnerships at Safaricom, I do understand, play a very big role in the success of the business. Kindly tell us a little bit about that.
I think it's a good point. There are two things I think where we realize as a company, and we continue to realize even more. One, we can't do everything ourselves, right? You'll have to work with people who can support and engage. So take content. We'll have to work with people who are able to create that content. We can platform it through Base and other platforms, but we're not movie makers, we're not short clip makers, and for sure I can't sing. But the whole intention is how do you work with people who create that content and we can platform and we can share revenue, we can share the economics around that. It's partnerships like take one of our public sector partners where they need us for a whole host of things, from cloud to billing, etc. And they, in turn, and we need them for a whole host of different things. So how do we have an engagement with them as a partner, saying, this is your list of wants, this is our list of wants. How do we make this work for our mutual benefit? If you look at other kind of partnerships, you look at what we're doing with the hyperscalers, right? The reality is that we have the advantage of having a 50+ million people on a network perspective, and not just Kenya. At Ethiopia, on top of that, you're talking about numbers in the 60, 65 sort of level. and we've got the reach, we've got the contact points. They're then able to leverage our ability to reach all these people to now provide other solutions from them on our platform, and it can be economically beneficial for both of us. So I think partnerships is driven by the fact that there's a lot to be gained by having a more structured approach to how you engage with these partners, having a much clearer strategy around the give and takes, the wins on both sides that you want to have, and having a much clearer picture of the economics. That I'm not just doing this for the sake of doing it, that it's fun to speak, it's fun to speak to the hyperscalers, but it's a really deeper view of this opportunity is generating this much for us, either in monetary value or in efficiencies or whatever the case may be, but having a much more structured and clearer view of what you want and why you want to get there with it.
Yeah. Okay. And in 2023, you led the closure of a multi-billion loan, the sustainability-linked loan, which is the biggest in the region. Curious to know how that happened.
Okay. The sustainability-linked loan was a team effort, and it required a lot of collaboration, particularly so between my team from a transaction execution perspective and the finance team, in terms of this is actually going to sit on our balance sheet and meet our funding goals and funding objectives as the company. So it's always a team effort that makes this work, but you're relying on clarity as to why, clarity as to execution capacity to make it happen. Now, the reason why the loan makes sense is, one, sustainability-linked financing generally is cheaper. And what I mean by that is because of sustainable goals, because of the ambitions around meeting SDG goals and the commitment by institutions globally, there's a greenium. A greenium basically is a discount to an ordinary loan price by virtue of the fact that you've gone the green route. That's the first one. The second point is it's the right thing to do. Right? That in essence, what we're trying to do, if you look at our solarization program, we want to solarize our base stations and reduce our reliance on diesel generators. If you look at our goals in terms of diversity and how we are seeking to have a much more diverse and inclusive workplace. If you look at what we're trying to do, for example, from a purpose perspective in the wider market, planting trees, the impact we're having in schools, hospitals, etc. Those initiatives around sustainability are critical for our business. They're critical to who, not just from a profitability perspective, but what we represent as a company, our values. So the sustainable linked loan was a good milestone to ensure that we are leading from the front, that we are funding those initiatives that help us with our agenda from a sustainability perspective, and also puts us on the hook that we have got obligations we said we'll meet, and we now have third parties that are holding us to it in terms of our financiers. From the structuring perspective, it was fairly straightforward. 4-bank club deal. Then my previous life, the things I used to do, once, twice a week. So it wasn't that difficult deal to structure, but it was more important that from what it represents, our ability to raise money and to raise money on a green priced perspective was very important.
And how do programs such as the DigiFarm and Spark Accelerator embed into Safaricom's strategy? Because I know you're also a big part of that.
That's a very good question. Both are initiatives I think we've tried for a while to get started and get going. So I get that comment a lot around the impatience the institution has around let's move on this. But if you take a step back, of our population of 55 million Kenyans, it's estimated about 60% have got their livelihoods linked to agriculture. We have done quite a lot of analysis. There are about 15 to 16 million individual small-scale farmers in this country. They are a critical part of our ecosystem. So just on the basis of transforming lives, our purpose, finding a way to solve and improve their lives is something that we're practically obliged to find a way to do. The second thing about it is it's always been a difficult and fragmented market. Some of the reasons why farmers are not in the sectors have been successful is it's highly fragmented. The farm losses in terms of loss in the field, loss in transit, means that farmers are only getting 10 to 15% margin of the value of the goods that they've produced. We're not able to feed ourselves independently as a country. If you think about it, we import maize, we import rice, we import meat, right? Eggs, right? Fish, right? And if we're serious about sustaining ourselves as a country, finding a way to feed ourselves sustainably is going to be, again, an important agenda to attain. And it's actually been captured in the government's manifesto. And then the third factor is it can be profitable. I think what we've shown as our various platforms is that if you engage with your customers, with the community in a way that benefits them, you can also grow and beneficially economically as well, right? So I think the role that DigiFarm will play is trying to find the right way to leverage technology to solve these challenges for farmers around how they earn money faster, how they can earn better yields, both in terms of physical yield of crop as well as yield in their pocket, in terms of how they when they sell and what they accrue from the sales, how they get more efficient in their practices for farming, and how, in essence, they can leverage our ecosystem to grow sustainably and support their own communities as a result. So what we've done over the last couple of years, I describe this as having paid tuition. We've learned a lot in terms of what works, what doesn't work, mistakes, corrections around the last couple of years to get there. But I think what we've been very focused on is ensuring we've got an ecosystem that is what as follows. We've got a way to finance the input section. So, how you disburse credit to the farmers, how they buy inputs, how they use those inputs, fertilizer or seed, how they can grow sustainably. So how we leverage technology, satellite technology, etc., to make sure that they're growing in the right places, in the right way, in a sustainable way. How then they're connected to the market, which is the buyer ecosystem. Who's going to buy that produce? Who's going to buy that milk? And then that ecosystem, how is it funded to pay for the farmers? And then the cash comes back. So the buyers, because they're funded, are able to pay the farmers. The farmers are able to pay the input provider, the agrovet, wherever it is, etc., and the cycle continues. Right? So it's making sure that you've got the right interventions across the ecosystem. We're leveraging technology, for example, on credit scoring. We've built an amazing credit model for farmers.
Most farmers.
For farmers, an amazing credit model. How we're leveraging, as I said, things like satellite technology. How we're leveraging AI to help them improve their yields and improve their practices. We've gone out and we've built a proper buyer platform. So we now have about 250 registered buyers. We never had before. So we'll be taking market risk that will be sitting on us. So farmers will go out to grow whatever it is. We are the buyer. And what we sell is airtime and mobile money services. We don't sell beans.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you link the right parties, cooperative, etc., in a way that you're de-risking us, but also helps improve the yields for the farmers, and the certainty that he knows if I plant these green grams, if I milk this cow, I'm guaranteed I've got a buyer.
There's a ready buyer.
I'm not taking any market risk. I'm trying to get to a point where that ready buyer also is already disclosing their prices. So you've got better predictability, you've got better sense of your economics. On Masoko, which has also been I think DigiFarm has been going on for the last 6-7 years.
Masoko, I'm hearing a lot of patience.
Patience
is key.
But and I'll come back to that point about patience, because a lot of these platforms don't work overnight. Right? We're celebrating M-Pesa at 18. But the hockey stick moment for M-Pesa had to happen at some point. It was there in the system, but there had to be hockey stick moments where the momentum picks up and the visibility picks up and the revenues pick up, etc. It's having that patience and ensuring that the build-up period, right, is as short as possible. But it's always going to be there, right? Masoko is another example. We've taken up Masoko and rebuilt the platform. I hope staff are buying devices off the platform
Masoko,
now. But what we've done with Masoko was start from scratch, rebuild it from the bottoms up, from the basic bolts. We've now moved to a consignment model. So, and that consignment model has ensured that we have something close to about 1,000, or even sent loose count, SKUs of what you can buy on Masoko, right? We've opened up a much wider.
What does SKU mean?
Stock keeping units, so different categories. So, iPhone 16, iPhone 16 Plus, those are two different SKUs, right? So we've got close to 1,000 SKUs now on Masoko. We've got a much deeper ecosystem, so you can buy devices ranging from the phone to the covers through to your headphones, games, gaming consoles, etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of categories you now have on Masoko. There's decisions to make that we decided to narrow ourselves down to just electronics. I know the intention was to be a platform for all goods, right? But the reality is that we were not really good at the back end around that. So how do we ensure that we've got the right ecosystem for our sector that supports the wider business, and take out risks like stock spoilage and all those sort of things that would have occurred with other items, and do so on a consignment basis, so we're not carrying stock risk, right? And those shifts have been, again, the execution and trying to make it work. But if you see where it is now, we are now selling on average about 38 to 40 million shillings worth of GMV as a gross market value monthly. And compared to where from Masoko, compared to where that's almost 10x, 8 to 10x where we were a year ago, right? Wow. So it's picking up. And I think it's just looking for ways we can accelerate that growth even faster. So how we market to various segments, how we expand even more SKUs, how we get ahead of the curve. So, for example, I'd love to be the launch partner for the new iPhone. How do we amplify it in the market, right? So that when people think about buying a device or what's available in the market, the number one place you first check out is Masoko. And it's being seen, right? We won an award like a month, 2 months ago for the best device platform on the e-commerce platforms awards, e-business or something like that. But it's a sign that it's now being seen also in the market that it's a different Masoko. So if we can amplify it a bit more, amplify the range. We fixed, for example, delivery. So we now guarantee we'll deliver within 24 hours. In fact, in some cases, within 3. So well, it's a much different proposition. The team has done an amazing job in reimagining what Masoko can be and try to get us back on a growth curve.
Wow. And for Spark Accelerator?
I think Spark Accelerator was an idea driven by the fact that, one, we can't build everything ourselves. That's for sure. And the whole ecosystem of startups that brings some really interesting, differentiated things. So how do we play in that space? The second thing is, we are the biggest company in East and Central Africa by revenue, by assets, by all the metrics. We have a role to play in also developing the ecosystem around us, right? And the third thing is the entire venture business has proven to be extremely profitable. So what it means is, the idea is you make small bets across, say, 10 companies. You just need 2 or 3 of those to be blockbusters. Another 2 or 3 will break even. You might have a problem with another 2 or 3. But the point is, the blockbusters cover for the entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
So there are 3 reasons why to play in that space. But if you go back to the first one, some of the stuff that's out there, right, we haven't even thought about it. And when we look about some of the ideas, the name that was doing gamification of savings, and really interesting how they are already ahead of that curve in that space. There are names that are doing interesting AI reconciliation tools that will help SME players with their stock keeping and reconciliation, and even tax payments and HR payments, etc. There's an interesting name that was doing content, virtual reality content in this country. In fact, thanks to what they did with Safaricom Ventures and the Spark Accelerator, we now use them for some of the S-Hook experience, where you hover your phone and you can get more details. That was Black Rhino. That was also one of the names on the Spark Accelerator. So a lot of interesting opportunities come out of it. And I think it's the company that do CBC very well take up a lot of ideas, a lot of innovations that you may not be able to self-develop, but you're leaning into the wider ecosystem and supporting the ecosystem. We've got Kenyans who are looking to grow and with great ideas. How do we help them?
What is the future of Safaricom when you look at the next 5 years? How does that look like from where you sit?
I think from where I sit, the next 5 years is growth. We just closed out, last year, we closed out our Vision 2030. We had a successful close of the Vision 2025. So we basically hit all the main measures that we're looking at. So now it's a question of, what does Vision 2030 look like? Vision 2030 is underpinned by, one, we have to scale Ethiopia. I think that we need to get that to scale and profitability. So a lot of work is going towards that. How you fund the rollout, how you execute your go-to-market and your customer outreach, how you make the markets aware and appreciate the propositions from 4G data to M-Pesa, and accelerate the growth in that. The next big pillar is how we continue our evolution from a tech-core perspective. So new propositions, enterprise, for example. Imagine a world where we're now providing software as a service, or ICT solutions at scale, or IoT solutions. In 5 years' time, people will be having driverless cars. Who's going to provide that connectivity and the software and the details of this local market? It has to be us. It's going to be about solutions we're doing, for example, what we're doing with government, where we're trying to support the government's efforts to digitize government and the public service. And again, it has to be done. We need to play a big part in that as Safaricom as the biggest operator in the country, but also as a leader, as a tech co-leader, we understand and we can execute those sort of programs. It's going to be what we do about evolving financial services. The vast majority of what we do in financial services today, from a revenue perspective, is still payments and transfers, etc. But we need to evolve into now services on top of that, insurance, health. How do you look at credit differently? Right? We've got the tools to score, we've got the market that can be scored. How do we now look at credit as a different proposition for us in the market? And then we look at the wider ecosystem of what it means for us. We put investments into Limuru, right? Data centers are going to be a big play. If you think about all the data being generated from not just our ecosystem, but AI tools, content, etc., the banks, it needs to be managed, stored, curated somewhere, and we've got a big role to play as the leading tech co in the data center space and the wholesale fiber space. We've just signed a deal, for example, on cable landing with Meta. So we'll need to support that also with data centers on the back of that. So I see us playing a much bigger role on the tech side, sustaining and growing incrementally our connectivity and financial services side, and becoming a much bigger player. Beyond Ethiopia, what else is there? Can you look at Rwanda or Uganda or into other markets? I think that makes it really exciting.
So what do we need to do as a company to help us achieve the milestones, or rather the targets that we've set for ourselves as a business, but also internally? What is the strategy around staff?
Okay. If I said the first one, the framework we've now put in place is, of course, the mission, right? Where, in essence, we take what Peter is achieved or seeks to achieve as a CEO, whether it's revenues or growth in certain areas or transformations in certain things, etc. That then gets broken down into the exco then to their direct reports, their direct reports into their direct reports, and that's a cascading process. So how we track it is through that process, being clear as to what you want to achieve, and then ownership and responsibilities, both in terms of the measurements and in terms of the tasks that need to be done. Now, the biggest challenge is, of course, getting the tasks done. And I think not just us, but any institution, even in your own personal life, is keeping true to what you said you would do, or what you said you're going to achieve. And then throughout the time, the years, course correcting to make sure you stay true to that goal, right? So if you want to learn how to ride a bicycle, right? If you then start by swimming and doing those other things, you might get fit, but your goal was to ride a bicycle, cycling, right? So it's getting true to what it is that you actually set out to do, and being clear as to the why you want to achieve that, and then help you to be clear about the objectives. I think in terms of staff, a lot has been done already around the 2+1. Last year's initiative around AI was very good to make sure that staff are fully aware of what AI means, have got a beyond peripheral understanding of AI, so that now when we start looking at tech solutions and tech-enabled, AI-enabled tech solutions, then we've got a base to start from our understanding as staff, and we continue to upskill staff in various ways and in various programs to make sure that we stay true to what it means to become a tech pro. So, for example, ask anybody 5 years ago around what did it mean to run a data center, to maybe like 1 or 2 people would know. Now it's a much bigger cohort around that sort of knowledge. Ask people 10 years ago what does it mean to run a fiber business? Nobody would know, right? Now you've got an entire ecosystem around fiber. So it's you continually to evolve your staff training, staff requirements in line to the shape of the study that you're having. So again, learning to cycle as opposed to other things.
Okay. For a business owner or someone looking to start a business, and I don't know when to be. One of the things that I've had you talk about was it's been 6 years since we launched DigiFarm. It's almost 10 years since we launched Masoko. Right now we are reaping the benefits. But how long should you wait before you give up? Or what's required? The patience that's required to successfully break even and start making profits. What should they do to their strategy? And when do you know this is working or this is completely not working?
Okay. So, well, DigiFarm, to correct you, is about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think Masoko is maybe 7-8 years.
Okay.
But here's the reality about setting up a new business. Even as an established company like us at Safaricom, it will take resilience. You will find issues and shocks that you have not foreseen or have come, but your actions to countermand them are not as robust, and you have to adjust to those realities. You'll have to have patience because things don't work overnight. It'll take, gaining credibility, gaining market share, all these different factors that come into play. And it'll take also an element of luck, right? Luck either in the form of your competitors making missteps, or luck in terms of an economic wind that comes and supports you. You will need an element of luck around that. So without those things, it's very difficult to build a new business. If you're too impatient, you want results now. It's hard then to have the patience to stick out what it means to get a proper business running. I give the example of Amazon, right? Amazon was EBITDA negative for well over 10 years. But look at them now, right? It's Jeff Bezos, the second or third richest man in the world. If he didn't stick to his conviction around what he's doing, he didn't adapt to changes in circumstances, it wouldn't be possible. We have some favorable wins that came his way.
Yeah.
And you can say that example over and over and over again. I mean, even us as Safaricom, you look back at our history, as much as we were formally licensed 25 years ago, it was a few years before we made profit, right? And I remember this because one of the first deals I ever worked on was the very first Safaricom bond many years ago. And remember at that time, there was huge amounts of concern around, is this company going to be profitable? It's a new market. They had to go and get a guarantee from a third party to underpin the financing, right? It sounds incredible now, but that's exactly what the situation was 25 years ago, 24, 23 years ago. Right? So the element of sticking to what you want to achieve, being adaptable, being patient. Now, the problem is you can't be that way forever.
Yeah.
So you have to find the points upon which find the points you cut loose.
Yeah.
And the challenge for most people is, for every company actually, is waiting or finding that moment. It's difficult. It's either when your losses or your capital has been eroded or other factors. It's different past circumstances. But I think the bigger thing is don't be too impatient.
Take us through your day as a Chief Strategy and Business Development Officer. How does that look like?
Well, my day typically starts, so I have a trainer who comes home at 5 a.m. So it starts at about 5, 5 to about 5:15. Then get ready. I'll typically be in the office. When I'm coming in, I'll be in the office by 7:30. Or if I'm working from home, I'll be at my desk by 7:30. And then calls typically start at about 8. Calls, meetings, etc. I find there's always a meeting every morning, 8 to 9. And then, or a bit later than that. I have my team meetings during the week. So I have a full team meeting in my ELT every Tuesday. And then one-on-ones with at least one team member throughout the week. And then a lot of engagements with partners. We'll have a lot of engagements around, say, transaction execution issues. We'll do at least a lot of engagements on strategy. So how we map out and put out the MSR, that's a monthly status review and mission, planning for the QBR, planning for next year's strategy and mission, and those sort of initiatives around strategy, and making sure we keep on track as to where we need to get to, or be clear about where we're falling short, and help the teams think through shaping the recovery in those sort of areas. I'll typically be at work all the way through till 6, 7. I've always been a late worker. I'm a little better now. It's be 10 o'clock at night. But then I also find I have a lot of engagements in the evening. So at least 2-3 days a week I'll be out for some kind of dinner, or partner, or customer engagement, or something along those lines. So my day ends around 9. On average, get home, family, and start again at 5.
Wow. Really good lesson from that. So what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? I mean, I'm trying to do better in my sleep. So hoping fewer things keep me up at night. I think for me, my challenges around keeping up at night has always been, I've always been a deep thinker. I'll spend my time thinking and unpacking situations and really thinking, what if? And it's taking me time to try evolve from having a glass half empty perspective, because you can get all these what ifs, and it pushes you down into that negative sort of mindset, and move to a more positive mindset in terms of, I've done everything that needs to be done, or everything in my power to get done. I'm sleeping in good conscience. But from here, you've done what you need to do, right? But also then going back to my point about clarity, because as long as you're clear, all these other things and everything else really won't matter. It's being clear, and you've done everything within your power to get to that point. Beyond that, it's other things.
Yeah. So what do you do to keep you sane? I know you mentioned that you go have a trainer in the morning, so you work out. You've also mentioned a little bit about hiking, which I'm assuming that it's something you do, but I'm not sure. But what is that helps you stay balanced?
Well, I play a lot of golf, and this is why I like golf. Actually, is it's you can vent your frustrations on a small white ball. But on a more serious note, it's a sport that enables you to support you, right? And how you react, and how you engage, and how you think through situations, etc. And you're always seeking perfection. Right? So it appeals to me that way. I spend a lot of time with family. I like braaiing or barbecuing. So you'll find me on a Sunday. Standard Sunday, I'll be barbecuing for family. And also, I really enjoy the quiet moments, reading a huge amount of podcasts. And I've got a stack of books. I always have about 600 books I'm I'm trying to get through at any one point in time.
Oh, I wanted to ask you what you're reading now, but you have 7.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
The 3 books I'm reading right now, which are particularly interesting. One is the biography of Robert Kennedy, and I think his story is more along the lines of coming from a wealthy family, seeing his brother shot, finding his own identity as a leader, changing his positions, and finding his voice in some difficult positions, the Civil Rights Act, and all those things that are happening at that point in time. I have the latest John Patterson, so trying to work through that. And the last one, well, nearly done with it, was a book all about the World War II and the decisions some of the leaders made on the battlefield in terms of. So, what example? For example, was the battles in North Africa, the tank. Rommel and his tank strategy, how he outsmarted the British and the Allied forces for a number of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite an intense book to be reading. But what advice would you have for someone who's looking to get into strategy? What are the skills they need to get into strategic leadership? Or what is the exposure that they need?
Well, I think from an exposure perspective, I was fortunate because in my role at the bank, I saw strategy from 2 different lenses. The first lens was your own strategy. So how we played our role in growing our revenues, the choices you made, the trade-offs you made to grow our revenues as a business, as a bank. So that's one lens of strategy that I got to see a lot of. But the other lens I got to see a lot of was then customer strategies, because I was on the corporate investment banking side of the business. So a lot of the decisions as to who you lend to, who you invest in or support the investments for, were premised on an understanding of their strategies. So if this is a supermarket chain, how are they going to penetrate the market? What are the steps they're trying to do to grow? If this is a cement manufacturer, how do you get their market share going? If this is a government, what is their 5-year medium-term plan? How are they going to pay back this bond? So I got to see strategy from both as a consumer, as a developer, as a manager in the bank. So I think that the lesson around strategy is it's all about the ambitions you have and the trade-offs you need to make to achieve that ambition. And then how do you execute against your day-to-day tasks to keep true to that ambition that you have. And I think you can approach it from multiple ways. You can approach it from technology, you can approach it from funding, you can approach it from core operational sort of business, and the great strategists I've seen have tended to be people with varied experience, whether they were accountants or salespeople who moved on to other areas of business, because then you've got multiple lenses that you can tie together and help determine that outcome that you're driving for.
Okay. I like that. The fact that it's good to have a variety of experience in different skill sets. So it doesn't require you to go to a strategy school and do strategy. You just need to know how business works, different departments work. Okay.
It's like. What do you think about that point? You just made a comment there, which is every skill can be taught,
Yes.
right? And by the same vein, every skill can be learned, right? So you don't need to necessarily go to formal school for that. As a lesson I learned much earlier in my career, when the best investment bankers I worked with, in terms of their ability to execute, the way they think through things, how they engage with clients, never had an MBA. I never went into a finance specialty or anything like that. They were actually journalists by training, right? And pivoted to a new challenge and a new sort of role. But the way they structured the engagement, you could see the journalist training coming through. So they're very effective with customers, with clients. Really could drill into the real issues very well. And that's a point. You can leverage different skills from different points. So I'm not saying don't go to business school. What I'm saying is every skill can be learned. And I think having an MBA and certificate training is definitely a plus. It's definitely a strong foundation for you. But like everything, you can also learn.
So thank you for joining us. This has been a really fruitful discussion, and we've learned quite a bit of nuggets. For me, what I take home is that every skill can be taught, it can be learned. And for you to have an impactful strategy, you need to have patience and resilience. And for joining us, we want to thank you very much. Remember, you can always watch this podcast on Safaricom Newsroom podcast. We also have a website. You can watch this on YouTube, on our social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. So thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, I've been your host, Julian Kamau.